Hi friends, Stevie here. Welcome to my Better Backbends program full of standalone classes that also mesh together. First of all, if you've heard this spiel before and you want to jump straight to the class, go ahead and skip to. Otherwise, welcome! This program is a remake and an improvement on my older program that was on Cody app, also titled Better Backbends. It will have more classes, new information, more accessible teaching and language, and yeah, just be better overall. It's also an improvement on my old Backbend book, which is no longer available. Maybe will be in the future. Anyway, they're presented in the suggested order and will be launched in the suggested order on the app. However, they do stand alone and you can do them in any order and skip any classes that you like. That being said, for example, there's one towards the end called Final Flow, and it'll be a longer flow style class where we'll go over some more complex transitions and just more complicated movements. And if you find any of that confusing, it could be helpful to then go back to a previous class. So what is Better Backbends? Is it just about things like wheel? Is it about really complex things like TikToks or dropping back? It's about everything. My goal for this program is to make it accessible and interesting and to leave people with an understanding that back bends are not just about the back. It's not just about bending in your spine. That back bends are in fact full body postures. Hence why so many of these different micro workshops or mini flows start to target different portions of something that is involved in a back bend, whether it's shoulders or finding activation, strength in the back or posterior line of the body, finding a little bit more space in the hips so we can spread the bend around, getting some hamstring control, and maybe finding more space up your cervical and thoracic where a lot of us can feel sticky using props. So much good info is covered in this, and I tried to put it into bite-sized pieces, knowing that backbends are really different and individual, customizable. Hopefully with these smaller pockets, you don't feel overwhelmed, and also understanding that backbends are somewhat cumulative, meaning if you're just coming into this, you may not leave with this perfectly round wheel or Kapotasana or flip grip king dancer, right? But hopefully this will provide a toolbox of different techniques that you can use as you investigate in your own body how to find a stronger, smoother, more supple bend, which can look so different in different postures. Sometimes we like to think about back bends as being extension, and that's true. We do often have some extension of the spine, but there might be flexion in other joints depending on the exact posture we are lusting after, or maybe we're not looking for a specific posture. I tend to stay away from too many peak pose or even peak transition classes these days and go more towards a theme. And so a lot of what will be provided here is just this idea of opening and expansion while also keeping it active, keeping it challenging, but still accessible, and just enjoying the journey. For a lot of the backbend offerings, I do suggest having a variety of props. 2 sturdy blocks can be really helpful. I like cork or wood or bamboo, a blanket or even 2, a rolled up towel works fine, a strap, a tie, and maybe even an extra mat. Once in a while, I might call it a chair. I'll tell you if that's in your class beforehand, but it can be helpful to have a sturdy folding chair or a dining chair that you can use to find a little bit of opening as well. And I hope that as you progress through this, again, it's open for all levels, it's available for all levels, that you're able to pick and choose what works best for your body, your needs, and your goals in your movement practice. As always, I'm open to suggestions and thoughts. I'll be adding more and more bonus things to this and maybe even making it its own category if that's something that interests y'all. I know we have a lot of people interested in things that involve backbends. There are so many cool transitions with backbends, but let's get started with some of the basics, focusing on different joint movements and then putting it all together, whether it's in a flow or a workshop-y style setting, because different things work better for different people. Thanks for joining me, and let's get moving.
Hey friends, Stevie here. Welcome to Smooth Out Your Bend, another edition of the Better Backbends program. This is another workshop style segment where we will focus on the idea of spreading the bend around. Most of us have a lot of natural flexibility in the lumbar or the lower back. That's great. We need that. However, it can be helpful when we're playing with these backbends and backbend transitions to look at the idea of what we call at Authentic Movements a lot, setting the pelvis or lengthening the tail down, pulling the pubic bone up, putting ourselves in more of a posterior tilt. It allows us to better access hip extension, which is a part of a lot of backbend postures, and it can force us to find some bend up higher, so more that bend 1 and 2 segment area. Now, does it back you out of the bend a little bit? Yeah, for a lot of us, the idea of smoothing out the bend, if we are taking ourselves from more of an anterior tilted position to a posterior tilt, we may not have as much range in the upper and the mid back. That's okay. We're likely getting a little bit more core control, trunk control as we move into the posterior tilt. It's a little easier to connect to some of especially the anterior core muscles, and we're getting more of that hip extension, hopefully. Plus, it allows us to play with that bend 1 and 2 a little bit more. Now, before I get too into the weeds about this, what props do you need? Because today we'll be using the props. So, probably a mat, 2 blocks, and I like to use my cork blocks. Actually, really just 1 block, but at least 1 block. I like my cork ones. A strap or a tie or a scarf, something you can use to tie around your legs at some point. You'll need a chair, a sturdy one. I have this metal ridiculous chair. Any kind of folding chair probably works fine too. And a wall. Now we won't use the chair and the wall until the second half of the class. So if you need to set up somewhere and go elsewhere to the wall, that works totally fine. However, you will at some point use the chair and the wall. And I often put the chair so that the back faces the wall, the skinny side of the mat faces the wall, and the back of the chair faces the wall so that we're not slipping. If you don't have some of the props, not a big deal. We can figure out some workarounds. This is more of a workshop style setting, so there will be time to kind of play with some of these drills. That being said, to keep it under 60 minutes, we got to keep moving a bit, so you can always pause and play with a drill that speaks to you or that you want to tinker with, or skip over it if it doesn't. So gather whatever you'd like, and I'll meet you on the mat. Great. Come to a seated position. Whatever is comfortable, and if you'd like to sit on your block or blanket roll, you can. Find length through the crown of the head. Press your sit bones down into the earth. And right away, let's think about this idea of setting the pelvis. So even as you're just seated, lengthen the tail and lift the pubic bone in the front of the pelvis a little bit more towards the sternum. See if you notice any connection of the brain to the belly, kind of deep inside what's happening there. Keep that. So keep that set of the pelvis. Take your arms out to a cactus or goal post position. Let's review bend 1 and 2. And if you're doing this out of order, you might be like, review? I have no idea what you're talking about. You can go back to the last workshop style for this Better Backbends program, which I think is strength through space. And we explore a lot about bend 1 and 2, but we're just going to review it a little bit here. Keeping the pelvis as is. Press the back of the skull back like you're trying to give yourself a light double chin. Squeeze the upper tips of your shoulder blades together, and you can do that by backing your elbows up. So let the shoulders come up a little bit by the ears as you do this. Push the back of the skull back. Squeeze the tips of the shoulder blades together like you're trying to hug a pencil. Bend 1. About 15-20% effort. Release. Soften. Let's do it again. Press the back of the skull back. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, especially the upper tips of the shoulder blades. Bend 1. Release. Try to breathe normally as you're doing bend 1 and 2. However, it can be a little bit challenging as we get into the deeper methods. Let's go into bend 2, which we get to from bend 1. So bend 1, push the back of the skull back. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Keep that. Drag the shoulder blades down towards the hip points. Keep the pressure of the skull backwards. Drag the shoulder blades down. Imagine them touching your hip points. Get the pelvis steady. Lift up and curl and coil through the chest. Bend 2, we're looking for a heated sensation as the bottom tips of the shoulder blades come together and drag down toward your hips. Release. Lower your arms for just a moment. Shift your shoulders. We're going to do that again. Take your arms out to cactus. Bend 1. Pull down, bend 2. I like to physically pull my elbows in closer to my sides to kind of accentuate this. Release, soften. All right, again, press the back of your skull back, cactus your arms, reach your elbows behind you, bend 1. Bend 2, coil and curl. Keep the back of the skull pushing backwards, resist the urge to let your head just fall back. Keep the neck involved here. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release, bend 1 and 2. Ooh, do some rolling out of the head in one direction and then the other. So what we'll be working up to today is this idea of kind of using the wall and the chair for some wheel stand up and drop backs. And if you're not interested in that, don't worry. There's plenty of other stuff to play with here. Tilt your left ear towards your left shoulder. This is just showing you how some props can help us with complex transitions. Switch sides, right ear, right shoulder. Bring your head back up to neutral. Take your right hand outside of your right hip. Left arm up, side bend towards your bottom arm. Big rainbow across to the other side. Rainbow back over to the right. Keep the opposite sit bone heavy to get a big side stretch. Reach with your top arm. Switch. 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 One more time on each side. Switch to the right. Switch to the left. Come back up. Take it over to the right. So left arm up and hold. Cactus your left arm. And let's think about bend 1 and 2 here in this position. So press the back of your skull back. Squeeze your shoulder blades together in your back body. Bend 1. Bend 2. Coil and lift. Pull the shoulder blades down. And I know we're also in kind of this little lateral side bend position. So it feels a little bit different here. Holding bend 1 and 2. One more inhale. And as you exhale, reach your left arm further forward over the top right corner of your mat and around through the back of body. Inhale, bend 1 and 2. Kind of like you're loading a spring. Exhale, reach and round. Inhale, bend 1 and 2. Exhale, reach and round. Inhale, bend 1 and 2. Exhale, reach and round. One more of that on your own. It's like a weird cat-cow, right? Single arm, weird cat-cow. Come up to a neutral torso here, but keep the right fingertips down. Take an inhale or reach your left arm towards the sky. Exhale, twist to the right. Twist to the right. Maybe you use your left hand to grab your right knee. Can you lift your right arm into a cactus position behind you? All right, so now here we are in a twisted position with the right arm in a cactus instead of the left. Let's think about a light version of that bend 1 and 2 here. Bend 1, press the back of the skull back, squeeze your right shoulder blade onto the back body. Bend 2, drag it down as you lift your chest. A little weird. You can use the tension of your left hand onto your right knee. Soften out of that just a little bit. Bend 1 and 2. Soften out. Bend 1 and 2. One more time. Soften. Bend 1 and 2. And release. Come back to center. Take your left fingers outside of your left hip and side bend towards that arm. Cactus your right arm. And think about bend 1 and 2. Push the back of the skull back. Squeeze your shoulder blade. Drag it down as you lift up through the heart space. We'll hold here in this little lateral position. Take one more inhale. Exhale, reach your right arm over the top left corner of your mat. Round through your spine here. Inhale, bend 1 and 2. Exhale, reach and round. Inhale, bend 1 and 2. Exhale, reach and round. Inhale, bend 1 and 2. Exhale, reach and round. One more time like that. Inhale, bend 1 and 2. Exhale, reach and round. And once on your own. Bring your torso up to neutral. Reach your right arm towards the sky. Take a big inhale. Stretch. Exhale, twist to the left. Maybe hook your right hand outside your left knee. Take your left arm into a cactus position. Hold your bend, chin in the direction that your sternum is pointing. Think bend 1 and 2. Press the skull back. Drag the shoulder blades down and together. Soften out. Bend 1 and 2. Soften out. Bend 1 and 2. Soften out. Bend 1 and 2. Soften out. One more time. Bend 1 and 2. Soften out. And release. Take both arms up to the sky or reach tall. And let them pour to the ground. Tabletop position. Hands and knees. Stack your shoulders over your wrists. And just rock the weight forward and back a little bit. As you rock forward, grip your fingers into the floor. Push down through all 4 corners of the hands. Pause the rocking, face your fingers towards the outer edges of the mat, rock back and forth. The more you shift forward, the more weight you'll have in your hands and your shoulders versus the more you shift your hips back, the less weight you'll have. Keep that in mind and adjust as desired. This changes as we face the fingers towards the knees. Now, as you rock forward, you'll feel less work usually. Although you'll feel more load, there'll be less of a bend in the wrist, right? Versus as you rock the hips back, you'll feel some extension, major extension. Now, I like to let my palms peel off the ground as I just kind of rock back. This can be helpful though, because as we work towards wheel is a pretty big sensation for a lot of people in the wrists. Great. Turn your hands back towards center. Fingertips face forward. Place a small bend into your elbows. Look down at your arms, press into the ground. Set your pelvis, so lengthen your tail. Lift your pubic bone towards your sternum. Keep that. Look at your right palm. Peel the entirety of the right palm off the mat, leaving the whole length of the fingers. Palm peels. Keep everything else still. Slowly lower with resistance to the floor. Left palm. Peel it off the ground, leaving the length of the fingers down. And release. Peel the right palm up, slower than you'd like to, release it back to the floor. Peel the left palm up, release it to the floor. Now you can keep going back and forth like that, or if that felt accessible, peel both palms up at the same time and release. You want more? Shift the shoulders forward, back the knees up, or even take this from a plank. You want less? Shift the shoulders back, peel and release. Peel up. Slowly bring back down. Keep going up and down here. You may feel some heating sensations in the thin skin side of the forearms as we kind of connect the brain to some of the musculature in the lower arm that feeds down into the wrists and hands. We call these palm peels. Peel up and down. Peel up and down. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Face the fingers back towards the knees. Palm peels in this direction. So let's do one at a time. First, think about your right hand. Peel your right palm off and release. Peel your left palm off and release. Right palm, release. I like a bend in my elbows here. Left palm, release. Now, maybe you play with both palms. It's a little harder here. And release. You can do a little less of the turn of the fingers, like if they are not perfectly back towards your knees, a little bit out like this, and that might work better. We're just exploring a different position of the wrist. And this is really hard for me as I do this. Maybe it's really easy for you. Up and lower. Up and lower. Trying not to use momentum. Keep everything else still. Up and down. One more time. Up and down. Great. Sit back on your shins and roll through the wrists. Wiggle through the fingers. Try to resist the urge to do a bunch of shaking after we just had that load on them, but just give them a little bit of movement and love. Hello, little dog. Have you come to visit? Now, we've done all these like very kind of exacting things. Come back into your tabletop and do any kind of happy flossing cat-cow motion that feels interesting to you today. Adding in any side to side and barrel rolls that you desire. All right. Wind down the movements of your cat-cow. Move your right hand more towards center. Lift your left arm up to the sky. Maybe you cactus it. It's a little harder, right? Take a big inhale. As you exhale, reach your left arm underneath your right. Reach, reach, reach. Resist the urge to put your shoulder down. Inhale back up to the sky and then cactus. Exhale, reach it under. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Inhale up to the sky. Cactus. Exhale, reach it under, stretch, stretch, stretch. Maybe you press your shoulder down and the knife edge of your left arm kind of dragging it back towards the left. You can move your right hand wherever you'd like here. Sometimes I even like to pick up my right arm and reach it to the sky. You can let your head down. It just does funny things with the mic. I like to let my hips move here, but if you prefer to keep them still, you can. Bring your right hand back to the ground, press down, lift your left arm up to the sky, and one more time, stretch, cactus. Release it to the floor. Right arm, move your left hand to the middle. Right arm up to the sky. Cactus your arm, take a big inhale. Exhale, weave your right arm under your left, stretch and reach. Inhale, straight up, cactus. Exhale, reach it through. Inhale, straight up, cactus. Exhale, reach it through. One more time. Inhale, straight up, cactus. Exhale, reach it through. Release the shoulder and the knife edge down. I like to press it into the floor and drag it back slightly. Press your left hand down if it's not there already. One more time, reach your right arm up to the sky, cactus, and bring it back to meet the floor. Walk your hands back towards your knees. Now it's up to you here if you tuck your toes or not. You're going to decide that based on what we're doing. As you walk your hands back, pick up your torso until you are up on your shins. You won't be here too long, but you can always put a blanket or a towel underneath. And you can tuck your toes too to see if that changes things for you. Okay, from this position, press your shins down. What did we talk about with the pelvis? So let's think about setting the pelvis. Pull the pubic bone towards the sternum. Squeeze your booty, tailbone to the floor. Okay, press your knees down. So the bottom of your body is strong and stable. And we're thinking about moving more from the point above that, right? So it's kind of like, I don't want to say we've locked the lower body because there is some movement there. We're hoping to find a little bit of hip extension. And sure, the low back is going to come into a little bit of extension, and that's great. However, we're hoping to focus more of the movement up top. Now, for this first little baby camel, just take your fingers to your booty, fingers face downward, kind of reminding you to squeeze and press down through the tailbone and the booty. Think about bend 1 and 2. Push the back of your skull back, squeeze your shoulder blades together. Bend 1, drag your shoulder blades down towards your hip as you lift up through the chest. Now, in camel, there's a big tendency to throw your head back, but think about bend 1 and 2. Press the back of the skull back. Resist the urge to dunk the head back. Gently guide the hips forward, maybe with the pressure and the push of the hands. Lift the chest towards the sky. Tiny camel, right? Nothing major. Squeeze, push down. You may feel your thighs heating up. Release. Now, if you want to do that again with the same arms, you can. Or your choice is to maybe cactus your arms, think more about bend 1 and 2. Now that means, you do have more load, so you kind of have to consciously think more about that idea of setting the pelvis. So, set your pelvis, maybe arms at cactus, maybe hands back on your booty. Think bend 1 and 2. Push the back of your skull back, squeeze your shoulder blades together. Drag your shoulder blades down towards your hip points. Bend 2. Find a place where you can still breathe, coiling and curling here. I'm hugging my elbows towards the side, but also pulling them down to remind myself of that momentum. Meanwhile, legs are very active, booty is very active, pubic bone pulling towards sternum. It's not my deepest camel, absolutely, but that's okay. I'm trying to spread out the bend. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release, come to your shins. Okay, next camel is not about the bend. It's about the quads. It's a camel lean back. Why are we doing camel lean backs? Well, because as we explore this and we get further and you have the opportunity to do these wheel, drop backs and stand-ups, it's a lot of load for the quads, a lot of load. And maybe a position we're not really used to in hip extension for these quads. So this is a great way to play with that. Come back up onto your shins. And again, you could choose toes tucked or untucked. I like them untucked. Set the pelvis and keep that. We want to, instead of thinking about pushing the hips forward now, we want to think about this as being like one long line. Like you have a piece of wood from your knees all the way to your shoulder. So it's like, whoop, this is not changing, right? And then you could take your hands out in front of you for a little counterbalance, squeeze the heck out of your booty, and you just take a little lean back. You take a little lean back until you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall. Now, there's a few different ways to do this. You could take a lean back until you feel like you're going to fall, almost fall, and then come back. Or if you're like, I could go back further, but then I won't be able to get up. That's called enjoying the eccentric phase, where we can get a little bit more work out of it. And all we have to do then is go back. Maybe you go to a place where you're like, I can't get up from here. Set your booty down and then come up, right? And then do it again, right? So we usually can go more on the eccentric and work on this than we can on the concentric. So meaning we can go more on the lengthening side versus the shortening side. Squeeze your booty, lean back. And when you're like, I can't lean back anymore, you can either put your booty down and then come up, or if you feel like, all right, I got this, I can come back up the same way I went down. So we're going to do 5 slow, steady camel lean backs on our own. Ready? Go. There is no bend 1 and 2 here. This is about the quads. Ow, that's my knee. Great. Once you're finished, take your time. Meet me in a downward facing dog. If you're in down dog, feel free to pedal it out, move, wiggle, jiggle. Might be nice to straighten and bend the knees after all that. All right, find your way to down dog if you're not there already. And bring yourself into a moment of stillness. Press firmly through the hands. Let the shoulders come up by the ears. Grip the floor with your fingertips. Bend to whatever degree you'd like in the knees, at least a soft bend. Think a long line from the palms out through the sit bones. Keeping a bend in the knees, tiptoe the feet towards the top of the mat. We'll end in a ragdoll position. Really big bend in the knees. Pour your upper body down over your lower body. Shift the weight to your heels. Keep the bend. Drip your way up to stand, 1 vertebrae at a time, stacking each until your head's the last thing to come up. Reverse that. Tuck your chin. Let your head fall and round. Bend the knees all the way back down to your ragdoll. Roll your way back up, stacking each segment of the spine on top of the other. And roll your way back down. Last time, roll up to stay. And you may be like, why are we doing all this standing and weird twisting stuff? A lot of these weird motions, bend 1 and 2, kind of cactusing, threading actions of the upper and mid back help us find a little bit more connection and maybe even a little bit more space in part of the body that can be a little sticky for a lot of people. So bring your arms out to a cactus, find a comfortable stance, bend your knees, set your pelvis, squeeze your booty, pull your puke bone up. So you don't always have to do this, but we're doing this right now, right? Don't think bend 1 and 2, just kick your arms out to a cactus. Keep the low body as is, twist to the right. Skip the middle, twist to the left. Twist to the right. Your hips might move a little bit, but try to keep them as still as possible. Twist to the left. Right, left, right, left, right, left. Start to go back and forth a little faster. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Widen the elbows, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. Release your arms. Kind of roll up through your head again. Okay. Come towards the top of your mat space and shift the weight into the right leg and just step the left leg to the back of the mat. Lower the back knee. Widen your right foot out slightly and take your hands inside of the right leg. Come to a lizard. Bring the hips forward, thinking about a little extension through the back hip here. What do I mean about that? Squeeze the left booty, pull the pubic bone towards the sit. Pull the pubic bone towards the sternum, not the sit bones. That would not make any sense. I like my back toe tucked. You can do what you choose. Sometimes I even like to back my back knee up a little bit. I'm looking for a sensation kind of across the front of the left hip. Take your right hand onto your right knee and use it to help yourself twist towards the right. Keep pushing through the bottom arm. Your pose may not look like mine, and that's okay. Take your right arm up to the sky, cactus it. Think bend 1 and 2. Might be a small motion that has a big sensation. Push through the bottom arm. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release your hands inside of your right foot. Shift your hips back and come onto your front heel. You can walk your hands back as well. Thinking about a half split position with your right leg outside of your right hands. You can even widen it more out to the side. Dig your right heel down and drag it towards your left knee. Think about that pelvic positioning even here. Maybe you come onto the fingertips and think cat-cow of the upper back while we keep the pelvis steady here. So inhale, pull your heart forward. Exhale, dome the back of the heart towards the sky. Inhale, little baby bend 1 and 2. Exhale, dome the heart towards the sky. Inhale, bend 1 and 2. Exhale, heart to the sky. Inhale, bend 1 and 2. Small movements, big sensations. Exhale, bend to the sky. Keep going at your own breath. Keep dragging your right heel towards your left knee, at least a small bend, if not a big bend in that right leg. Beautiful. Lunge into that right foot. Look at your back knee. Pivot it so that the shin is on the mat. Take your left hand to the back of your mat and just stretch long along the right side body. Big stretch. Counter gate, we call this. Big, 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 big stretch. Right fingertips to right toes or right heel, whatever you want to think about as your line. I like to kind of squeeze through my booty and press my hips forward. You can even cactus through the top arm and do that reaching action again. It can feel really nice to get some side body length. Great. Pull the right foot in a little bit. Bend into your bottom arm and cartwheel towards the front of your mat. Kind of pivoting on that back knee. Great. Pick up the left knee and just hang out here in this higher up lunge position. Beautiful. Step the left foot up. Step the right foot back. Other side. Move the left foot out so our hands are inside. Lower the back knee. Again, maybe back it up a little bit. Thinking extension through the right hip. So pull the pubic bone towards the sternum and squeeze through your right booty. Toe can be tucked or untucked. Maybe the left hand comes to the left knee and twist. Keep pushing through your bottom arm. Cactus through your left arm and think bend 1 and 2. Push through your bottom arm. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take your left hand inside of your left foot and back the hips up to your half splits. Again, walk your hands back as desired. Dig your left heel into the floor and drag it towards your back knee. Find that connection of the hamstring working while it stretches. I like to come on my fingertips here for a little bit more space. And then it's a little bit of cat-cow motion. Keep the pelvis steady, pull the heart forward, and dome the back of it towards the sky. A little bend 1 and 2 action, heart towards the sky. Bend 1 and 2, back of the heart balloons up. Little action going back and forth with your own breath. If at any point you'd rather just hold the half split, go for it. Watch out for small creatures that settle beneath your left hamstring. Hello, small creature. Alrighty. Lunge forward into your left foot. Look at your back knee. Pivot on your right shin and reach your right hand to the back of your mat. Just a big stretch. Whew, counter gate through that whole left side body. I like to squeeze my booty and press my hips forward, maybe even cactus, and then straighten my top arm. Cactus, and straighten. Lovely. Pull your left foot in, bend your bottom arm, bounce off of it. Pivot on your back knee and frame your front foot. Lift up through your back knee here. Little lungy position. Again, still thinking about squeezing through your rat bootay. And as you're ready, step your right foot up. Okay, come to a stand. We don't need the chair yet. However, we do need the wall. So pull your mat to the wall. Gather a block, a strap, and you do have your chair nearby. I like to bring my mat all the way to the wall or right by the wall. Sorry, mirror. But we don't need the chair quite yet. Sorry, y'all, my allergies still kick my butt. So apologies for all the sniffing. But usually the yoga makes it feel better. Okay, so in a standing position near the wall. Y'all know puppy pose. It was very popular for a while on Instagram. Let's do like a soft, messy puppy pose, which means stand by the wall. I don't know how close, like 18 inches away. Take your hands up it. I don't know how high, a little higher than your shoulders. And then just like pour your chest towards the wall. Stick your booty out behind you, bend your knees, and like do lazy puppy. Like, okay. If you want to wiggle, if you want to adjust where your feet or your hands are, be my guest. Lazy puppy. Stick your booty out. So we're letting the pelvis move to start. You can also do this on the floor if you don't want to do it on the wall. Lazy puppy, I like a little bouncing. And peel yourself away from the wall. Okay, so lazy puppy kind of lets us kind of just have a little fun in our body and kind of feel what areas might want some attention. And then what we'll do now is the idea of setting the pelvis so that the bend goes up more to the back and the shoulders. There's nothing wrong with stretching other parts of the body, but that's where we want to focus now. So as you hinge now at the hip towards the wall, think about that tailbone length and the pubic bone up and try to keep that as you walk your fingertips up the wall. Sometimes I also like to think about a light tricep rep or external rotation of the arm. So even though I put the palms down often, you could think about the knife edge of the hands being like the one that's trying to press into the wall. You could even spin the palms towards each other and gently press the heart towards the wall as you keep the pelvis steady. We're not thinking bend 1 and 2 here. We're just getting a little shoulder stretch. I sometimes then like to crawl my fingers higher and almost drag myself down the wall for a little bit of shoulder stretch while I am still trying to maintain that more neutral pelvic position. Now, bend in the knees gives you space to do this. It doesn't look like the other one, but it feels interesting. The other one doesn't feel bad to me at all. I'm just focusing on different things. Beautiful. Peel yourself away from the wall. Okie dokie. Grab onto a strap and a block just to keep them nearby. We don't need them quite yet. And maybe, I know I didn't say this at the beginning, but maybe a blanket if you have sensitive knees. We'll be doing quad stretch against the wall or Sometimes people call it like wall 90-90 or runner's lunge, or I don't know what you call it, whatever. I'm going to put this under my back knee since I have sensitive back knees for this kind of thing, meaning I put the blanket all the way to the wall. Now, you will face your back to the wall and put your right leg forward, left knee towards the wall. Now, the goal is to get it pretty close to the wall. However, you don't have to stick it right up in the crack to start. I like to keep mine a few inches away and then set myself up in like a 90-90 as I slowly lift my hands to my right leg. And I have the nice aspect of having my chair nearby, which you can as well for a little extra balance. Now, what are we trying to do? We're not trying to stick our booty to the wall here. We're thinking about lengthening the tailbone down, whoa, and pulling the pubic bone up. And I just got a huge sensation in my left quad as I did that. So that's the point. It's not about getting your back to the wall. Notice as I got my back to the wall, I just kind of did this little back bend. I'm focusing on the quad action right now. And so I actually like to walk my right foot a little bit more to the right to give myself space here. And keeping the pelvic position, I gently press myself to the wall, my hips to the wall with my front foot, pressing down and away from self. So you're looking for a sensation in the front of the left quad. If you don't feel it, that's great for you. If you do feel it, that's also great for you. You can wiggle around and adjust and see what your body desires here. And you may slowly find that as you hang out, you have a little bit more room, or maybe you're like, ooh, I think I can scoot my back knee back a little bit, and then maybe scoot my right foot back a little bit. And you may be like, nah, that wasn't worth it. I didn't get the sensations I want. I'm going to come forward a little bit here. So just kind of play. It won't be here too long. This is one of those stretches. King Arthur, that's the other name for this posture that I always forget. Doesn't make me feel like a king. Or King Arthur in general. But if you want to play with this one for a long time, that could be a really nice thing to add to like a restorative or even like a yin glass. Although this doesn't make me feel very yin-y. Nothing makes me feel very yin-y though, if I'm being honest. Pull the pubic bone up. Lengthen the tail down. As you're ready, back out of this slowly. And switch to the other side. You might find one side is very different than the other. I did my good side first, of course, because that's just what I do to myself all the time. Okay. As you set yourself up for success, this is a great place to be, right here. If you'd like to bring both hands up, that's nice too. I almost like to pigeon toe my front foot a little bit for extra balance, and then kind of shift where my booty hits my back heel. Again, lift the pubic bone, lengthen the tail. It's you setting the pelvis that is going to do most of the work here for you in this stretch. It's not about like getting yourself all flush to the wall. Think about the hips kind of being the leader here. If the hips are getting really close to the wall and the hips are feeling like they could be flush, then yes, you can start to bring the body there as well. But focus on the lower body first before we worry about getting the upper body to the wall. You can see my limbs are trembling. This is a lot of concentration to keep the positioning and not just go to pockets of comfort. Y'all doing great. Slowly back out of this. Watch out for your little creatures. Okay. And move your blankets. All right. So, good job. We still don't need the chair. You do need your strap pretty soon. We'll be doing a couple of bridge poses. Bridge poses is like often a precursor for wheel, although they're very different. Let us start. We don't need it quite yet, but just make a little loop in your strap. So if you've never done these locking loops, put it through both and make it about as wide as your legs are when they're hip distance apart. And then you take the end of this strap and you skip one and you loop it through the other on top so that you can make this tighter, but it's not going to get looser. And we're not going to use that quite yet. We're going to use the block first. So put that off to the side and grab one of your blocks. Okay, bridge pose, squeezing a block between the thighs. So a lot of different methods, squeeze the block, stretch into the strap. Like they both have their benefits, and we're not going to argue about them right now. We're just going to explore what they feel like in our body. So come onto your back body, grab your block. I like the medium setting as I take the block and bite it between my inner thighs. Medium setting means like medium width. This would be like the skinny setting, medium setting, wide setting. You know, I like medium. I like a little bit wider, and I do like to put it near my groin so it is a little bit wider here, and it's something I can really bite into. Now, you don't need to tickle your heels or anything like that to do like a really tight bridge pose, especially at first. I like my feet slightly turned out. You do you. Before we go up, set the pelvis. Lengthen the tail. Pull the pubic bone towards the sternum. As you do that, your butt will probably lift off the ground. Squeeze the block. Squeeze your butt. Push through your heels. Robot arms. Lift your booty. And focus on the hips first. Focus on the hips first. Squeeze your booty. Squeeze the block. Pull your pubic bone towards your sternum and send your knees towards the wall. Okay, now can we think bend 1 and 2 here with our robot arms. Push the back of the skull in. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Drag your shoulder blades towards your sit bones. It's not really down now. It's kind of like up and back, right, towards your sit bones. Can we keep the position of the pelvis and also think active bend 1 and 2 with the upper body? It's a lot. Keep breathing, right? Keep breathing. If you can't breathe, you're probably up a little too high. Push through the feet. Really active body here. Lower body is so important in these wheel postures. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow lower down like we're rippling back down through the spine until you rest your booty. Take out the block and just let your knees knock together for a second. Didn't have to be your craziest. Bridge pose was the first one. All right, now let's experiment with that strap. Excuse me, small creature. Take a strap. Once you have the loop in it, take it on your legs, onto your legs. Now, again, I like mine a little wide, but I'm going to make it a little smaller. So I put it kind of in the middle of my thighs. You could decide what you'd like. I want to be able to push into the strap and have it have minimal sliding. So some of you might be like, but then like we're training our legs to go out. Like it's not that big a deal. I actually like my legs to go out. I used to teach like that too. I used to be like, no. If we push into the strap, we're creating these patterns where we're going to be pressing our legs out in back bends. But you know what? I like to press my legs out in back bends. It feels really comfortable for me, including my pelvis. And it gives me a lot more space to do things that don't feel nearly as crunchy. So take that. Anyway, if you don't like it, don't do it. Push your feet down. You may find that you could curl your heels a little closer to your sit bone. You may not. Robot arms. Set your pelvis. Then, keeping that set, lift the booty up. Pull your pubic bone towards your sternum, knees away from self. Press down through your heels. Only when you've got that established, think bend 1 and 2. Use the tricep press into the floor to help you with this. Push the back of the skull back. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Drag your shoulder blades towards your hip. As I drag my shoulder blades towards my hip, I actually kind of move on my mat. So it's like I think bend 1, and then as I do bend 2, I kind of move. On my mat, just shift a little bit. Find a place where you can still breathe. Maybe even talk awkwardly. Press into the strap. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slow, lower, down. Remove strap. Let knees knock in. Did you like strap or block better? Maybe you hated both. I don't know. Speaking of hate, I got some kind of dust in my eyeball. Probably just a piece of mascara. All right. So last bridge will be with our feet on the wall. You could choose if you like the block or the strap, or if you're like, I hated both. I will do neither. We'll be putting our feet onto the wall. Hopefully that's okay on your wall. And lifting the hips. Now, this is still different than a wheel. It's just kind of introducing different levels for ourselves before we now add in the chair. So the last thing we do without the chair, scoot your booty closer to the wall. How close? I don't know. Look, mine is like, I don't know, a foot away, okay? A foot away from the wall or so. You can always come down and change it up. And then I put my legs at about a 90-90. A 99. I know I'm going to walk them further up the wall once I get going, but this is just what I like to get started with, okay? Lay down. Set your pelvis. Press your heels into the wall. Okay. The higher you put your feet up, the less of a hip extension it'll be, and the lower you put your feet down, the more of hip extension will be when you lift up, right? So I know that can seem a little counterintuitive. Set your pelvis, robot arm. Then as you're ready, lift the pelvis up. And you might be like, see, I ran out of room. I want to walk my feet up, and then I can lift my pelvis a little bit more. That's what I did, and it is okay. Walk up the wall. Once you have the pelvis set, think bend 1 and 2. Bend 1 and 2. Maybe you even flirt with the idea of putting one hand and flipping it so that the fingers face the wall, like a wheel pose. Now, if you feel comfortable doing both, you can. However, you certainly don't have to. This is just a good place to explore what it's like to put the hands into wheel position. I think it would be very hard to push up to wheel from here. I've done it a few times, but it's been a long time. We are not going to do that today. We're just kind of getting into a weird spot. You can also, if you feel like it, push into your right foot and let your left toes sprinkle down to or towards the floor, and then bring them back up. You could do this with your arms down and even supporting your hips if you'd like. Let your right toes sprinkle down to or towards the floor and pick them back up. That's a nice thing. I like it with my hips supported here. So I can focus on the hip extension. Toes down, lift back up, toes down, lift back up. Beautiful. Slower than you'd like. Release yourself to the floor. Roll to the side. Okay, chair. Chair, 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 chair. Move your silly skull cushions. You don't need them. Move your silly princess cushions. Well, I'm going to regret this, using this metal chair for this, but that's okay. It's pretty, right? Ugh, aesthetics. Fashion over function. Okay. Now, make sure your mat is all the way to the wall. Sorry, little dog. And then take your chair and place it so that the back of the chair comes onto the wall. Hopefully not scratching up my wall too much. Okay. Before we do anything crazy on the chair, we're going to hang on it. Have you done thoracic hang with me before? If not, welcome. It's one of my favorite things to do. You know that bottom area of your shoulder blades, like bend 2 area? That's the place we're putting on the front lip of the chair. Now, if you have a folding chair, you have a much better lip than me. I have this round thing. But you know what? The chair is beautiful, so whatever. So, crouch down in front of the chair. Place bend 2 approximately onto the chair. If it's really hard and you want to put a blanket, that's fine. And then wiggle waddle your feet further forward, reach back and grab somewhere on the chair. You could grab here on the side, you could grab here. Depending on your chair, you might be able to wiggle, 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 wiggle your arms down and get a little bit of shoulder love. What are we doing here? We are doing a thoracic hang. So the idea is to let the hips be heavy and bring them down. Now I still think about setting the pelvis and lengthening my tail. Notice the difference. I can let my booty kind of blossom and hang down, or I can set the pelvis and force the bend up higher. We're just playing with the sticky bits. I like to move my bun so that I can actually lay back on the chair a little bit, and then grabbing the back for support, just gently exist here in this hanging position. Can you move up and down a few millimeters or so? Absolutely. Find a sticky part in your back. What else could you do? Extend your legs long. This is going to make them feel heavier. Your hips feel heavier and can force more of a bend. Is that what you want today? I don't know. Think about setting the pelvis and hanging. If at any point you feel lightheaded or silly in a way that you don't like, come to a seat, and then you can always go back in. Thoracic hang is another one that I could do and explore for 5 or 6 minutes at a time, just taking little breaks and then playing with other areas of the body. But we'll only be here for another few breaths, so do whatever you'd like to do here. Maybe that means trying to wiggle waddle your arms down. It's almost like a wheel for the upper body, with our head in a more neutral position. Great. Slowly release your butt to the floor, however that works for you. Oh, and come up to a seat. Maybe grab onto your knees, do a little bit of cat-cow. Hey, chair. Hey, chair. Head side to side. All right. Okie dokie artichokes. Next up is going to be camel at the chair. So come to your shins, face the chair. Hi, chair. Knees just a few inches from the chair. And all we're doing differently is now we're able to grab the chair and kind of have that chair here to help set our hips into place. So the hips do come forward slightly, but it's not a ton. Just a few inches is a great place to be. So set the pelvis, lengthen the tail down, lift up through the pubic bone, and gently bring the hips further forward. Then I like to grab onto the sides of the chair and actually use them for pulling a little bit. This also helps me find a little bit of bend 1 and 2 action. The tendency with this kind of camel is to donk your head back. We're not worried about donking your head back. We're not doing king camel or anything today. We're just looking for a little bit of bend 1 and 2 action. So grabbing onto the chair, set your pelvis, strong legs, push down into the ground. Think bend 1. Push the back of the skull back, squeeze your shoulder blades together. Bend 2, coil and curl. Take a little breath. Can you coil and curl even more? Grab onto the chair. Can you coil and curl even more? Adjust as needed. I want my knees a little wider. Coil and curl. Coil and curl. Coil and curl. Maybe at the end, if it feels comfortable, to let your head come back. You can. I'm just going to come up just so I can talk a little bit easier. But once I dip my head back, it's very hard for me to talk and breathe. That's not a bad thing. However, if you'd like to explore what it's like to put your head all the way back there at the end of your coil and curl, go for it. Let's do it once more together, or maybe your first time if you were just watching that round. And I'm not going to talk, just think bend 1 and 2, coil and curl on your way back. Keep the set of the pelvis and the strong lower body. Let's go. When I come up, I like to come up slowly and leave my head kind of to be the last thing. It helps me feel less dizzy about it. You may have gotten a lot of coil and curling, and you may not have gotten that much at all. It's going to be different for different people, y'all. Okay. We've got wheel, and then our wheel stand-ups. So you're almost there. I recommend just leaving the chair there, getting your strap and your block back. So again, if you're like, I don't do wheel, that's fine. You can still play with some of these transitions that we're going to do in just a second. However, I want to give people who do some wheel a chance to warm up with a couple on the floor before we play with kind of the stand-ups and dropbacks. I was like, what are we looking for? So the block and the strap is what you're looking for. One wheel with the block. Now, I like to just press up from wheel almost before I go into a bridge. If you're like one of those people who's like, no, I go through a bridge and then I go into wheel, that's fine too. I used to teach like that. And then I was like, I don't actually like this. I prefer to just go up into a wheel. I think it's much easier than having a stopping point. And that's me. So you do what you would like to do. I'm going to put my feet close to the chair so that they're kind of there and they can't wiggle around, and squeeze my block. Come onto my back, set my hands up for wheel. Now, I'm not just going to like pop up right away. I'm going to kind of get myself set up and situated. That idea of setting the pelvis, squeezing the block. I like my hands a little bit wider here, and I let my elbows kind of flap out, and my thumbs aren't even on the ground really at this point. They will get on the ground as I push through my feet and I shift the weight more towards my upper body. However, I know it's going to take some time to get there. I also like my feet a little bit wider, as wide as my mat, I know, and slightly turned out. It's very naughty. Push into the heels, set your pelvis, start to press into the feet and lift the hips, and then I press into my hands and lift all the way up into wheel, and then adjust from there as desired. Walking your feet or hands closer, farther, doesn't matter. You could play with shifting more towards the chest or towards the hips. I like a balance of both. The idea of my hips lifting up, squeezing the booty as my chest reaches towards the top of the mat. We're only here for a few breaths. And then as you desire, back of the head and roll down. Remove the block, let the knees knock in. Again, if you're not doing wheel today, you could totally do a bridge pose with us. Another bridge pose. Or maybe another camel or a thoracic hang. Not important, you choose. Let's do a wheel, pressing into the strap here. I like my strap up a little bit higher. Give it a little tighten. Press into the strap. For a lot of people, this can feel like there's a little bit more space. And if it doesn't feel bad on your pelvis, well, good for you. It doesn't feel bad on mine either. Again, set your hands up for success. Set the pelvis, push into the heels. I like to lift my hips a little bit first, and then it's like finding that power. I'm able to push through the hands and press up into my wheel. From wheel, adjust as desired. Maybe you want to walk your hands back. You're getting a little bit warmer. I think it's easier to walk your hands than your feet. That's just me, especially when I have the strap on. Rock back and forth, experiment. Does one side feel different than the other? I'm here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend, aim for the back of the head or even skip the head as you come down so you're not clonking. Release the strap. Let the knees knock inward. Okay, last couple things, y'all. Come to a stand. I know we're like tired, but we want to keep the warmth and the mobility. Back bends are cumulative, so sometimes I even do like 3-hour-long back bend workshops when we teach in person, just because it can take a long time. And often our best back bends are right at that edge between being a little tired so we can kind of loosen and soften, but not so tired where we can still hang on to some of the principles that we've been talking about. So now how do we use the chair for drop backs and get ups? Well, one is it's actually easier to use them for drop backs than it's to get up, if that makes sense, because you don't have to drop all the way back. So if you're like, I'm not doing wheel, but I'd like to play with this a little bit, let's enjoy this method first. And then I'll just briefly show you the other one and you could play with it if you'd like. This method means turning your back to the chair and backing up almost to it or maybe even touching it for support, especially if you're like a little nervous about this. Backing up literally until your calves are touching the chair can feel supportive. And then I bend the legs, even though that means like my legs are going to come a little bit away from the chair. Bending my legs gives me space to set the pelvis. And then I can see the wall back there. Hi, wall. It's okay. I can reach back and touch it. I know it's there. I know the chair is there. I'm going to be okay. What's the worst that can happen? I can always just sit down, right? But I can also play with bend 1 and 2. Find the bend of the knees. Set the pelvis. I got this nice mirror here to see myself setting my pelvis. Take your arms out and think bend 1 and 2. Press the back of the skull back. It's just like that camel. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Coil and curl. Coil and curl. Coil and curl. Coil and curl. Maybe you start to see the wall with your eyes looking upwards. Coil and curl. Maybe you allow yourself to tip your head back. Oh, hey, wall. You could reach one hand or both hands back. Hey, congratulations, you just did a drop back. You could pull one hand in and the other hand in. Congratulations, you just did a drop back. It's not that big of a deal. What can you do next time? Maybe step a little bit further away from your chair and do it again. It's going to feel like the wall is further back. It is, 2 or 3 inches further back. Another thing you could do is if you feel like you had the space, you could walk your fingertips down. Now it gets a little hard for me to talk while I'm doing that, so I'll just give you a demo. So as I walk my feet a little bit further to give myself more space, and I crawl my hands back, it might look something like this. Again, I like my feet wider and turned out. This feels good on my pelvis. Big bend. Lengthen the tail down. Pull the pubic bone up. I think bend 1 and 2 first. And then when I get to a comfortable space, I look back and I say, hey, wall. Maybe I reach back, one or both hands, and I can even walk my fingers down. I might touch the chair. I might not. It's there. If I really want to, sure, I can walk my hands all the way down onto the chair. Now that's a really big bend. As I come out, I leave my head to be the last thing to come up. That's a really big bend. And so it's not necessarily going to be available to everyone, especially if you're just getting started. I just want to show you where you can go with this. Absolutely. You could literally just stand here on the chair and reach back and touch. Reach back and touch. This is a great place to be. You could even do it sitting if this feels more comfortable. This also, sitting kind of forces you to somewhat keep the position of the pelvis because you're in hip flexion, right? So there's only so much anterior tilt you could do as you reach back and play with that. Okay? So this idea of using the chair for drop backs and get ups can be helpful. Now, I'll do one quick demo of how you can use the chair to press into wheel and then do a get up. But this is just for a demo. And then if you want to pause and play with it, you totally can. However, it is just that. It's just kind of as a for fun thing that you can play with if you're getting close to that. And what I mean by that is you press up with your hands on the chair and your feet on the ground. And it can actually be an even crunchier wheel pose. So I only recommend doing this if you are really comfortable with wheel in the first place, because this chair is not ideal for it because I don't really have the the back things of the chair like most people do, but I'm going to put my hands here and I'm going to press up into a wheel from here. It's going to be messy, right? But it's really more about finding my feet position onto the chair. So as I push up, I have to move my chest towards the chair and then I have to back my feet up until I'm at a place where my hands start to get light and I can walk them to the back of the chair and maybe walk them to the wall and lift up. Now I did that a little faster just because it's really hard to talk and breathe while I'm doing that. The tendency is going to be to take the hands off the chair and onto the wall way too soon when there's way too much weight into the hands. You have to walk your feet. Look how close my feet are to the chair. And I probably could have backed them up another 3 inches before I really started to feel that lightness. Because ideally, if you're doing this on the floor, you would pick up both hands at the same time. So ideally, you'll find lightness in both hands to lift to the back of the chair and then to lift to the wall before you actually lift up, right? And then when you do lift up, keep your feet exactly where they were, because that's your drop back position too, right? And then you can play with this idea of dropping back onto the chair. But that's a really complex movement. Sometimes it's best to do it when there's a friend involved, if it's your first time, so they can, sometimes we stop ourselves in like that dangerous spot where instead of going for it, we kind of collapse. We're like, oh no, I can't do it. And that's where things get a little bit scary versus like just touching the wall and being like, oh, I didn't go that low. So it can be helpful to do it with a friend. So if you want to pause the video and play with any of what we've been doing, please be my guest. Otherwise, you've already done a ton of great work here, and you can join me by simply sitting on the chair. Oh, hello, chair. Sit on the chair and back yourself up so that you're supported by the back of the chair. You know, even though we've tried to keep this out of the low back, probably some of it went in. That's pretty normal. And press yourself into the back of the chair if you want to put your feet on blocks because you're a little bit shorter. That's a great thing to do too. Squeeze your legs together. Press your hands into your upper legs and your legs back into your hands. Maybe even hover your left foot off the floor. Switch, maybe hover the right foot off the floor. Maybe you hover both feet off the floor, which is surprisingly harder than one might think in this position on the chair, at least for me. Release. Take your right hand to the right side of the chair, maybe the back sidebar, and your left arm up to the sky. Take a big inhale. Exhale, really light twist to the right. Left hand on the right knee and your right hand on the back of the chair, just giving yourself a little tug. Release. Switch it to the other side. Right hand reaches to the sky and twist to the left. Release back to center. Pull your right knee to your chest. Give it a squeeze. And cross your right ankle over your left thigh. So you're doing like a pigeon action here on the chair. This is a great place to be. You can also gently fold, thinking long spine here. So I like to think about pulling my heart lightly forward and placing my forearms on my leg for a little extra. Now, of course, you do not have to do that. You can simply sit up tall, and this is a great place to be. But you can also fold. Bring the torso up. Release, switch it out. Left knee to chest. Cross the ankle. Stay here or float with this idea of coming forward. Any level of folding is welcome. Release and come back up. Bring your left foot to the floor. Bring your feet a little bit wider, maybe about as wide as your mat. Hinge forward at the hips first, maybe pressing your forearms down into your knees. Think long spine to start. Take a few breaths here, and if it feels comfortable and interesting, maybe reach your hands down inside of your legs. You can even start to round through the spine, tucking the chin down and hanging between your legs. I like to reach my hands forward with my fingertips and just kind of pour my upper body down between my legs. Slowly letting my back traction out and round after all that active pulling. Hook your hands back towards your feet, only to bring your feet closer together and make a shelf for you to then lay on here as you come back into this folded position. And this will be our final position. So stay here as long as you'd like. If you'd prefer a different position, maybe laying on your back with your shins on the chair, or if you prefer to just not have a final resting position and go upon your life, that's fine too. As we get into some of these more complex back bend transitions and options, please keep a level of kindness and curiosity with your body. It might not look like mine, it might look very different than mine, and it might behave very differently too. Especially with these back bends, some of it is about exploring your unique anatomy and seeing what works for you. And part of that is letting go of things that don't work and even with effort and time won't work. Or also figuring out if it's worth it for you, right? There was a point in my life where I was very interested in getting to or close to my end range of motion in a lot of these complex postures. And I tried to do it safely, but it took a lot of time and effort on the yoga mat, in the gym, doing all these things to achieve a stable and secure variation of this complex posture for my body. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just not where I am today. And so knowing that I'm not going to be spending as much time doing these movements, what does that mean I need to let go of? And you saw it in the first workshop, like my feet were nowhere close to my head in my King Cobra. With the drop backs and stand-ups, they still work in my body, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of warm-up. And I do think that it does work in many, many bodies. However, regardless of whether or not you do drop backs and stand-ups from wheel, you can still have a beautiful back bend practice and a beautiful yoga practice, and more importantly, be a great person. So these things are all just for fun and exploration and tinkering purposes. And thank you so much for being here. I hope you continue on with these better back bends workshops and flows, and I'll see you again soon, friends.